Thank you, Anthony.
Not that you get older.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's study session for the City of Casa Grande on this fourth day of November already. Don't forget to vote tomorrow. So tonight we're going to hear a presentation and discussion related to the proposed East Side wastewater solution and partnership between the City of Casa Grande and Arizona Water. This is on the east side of I-10 for the city. So, Mr. Raines, I'll let you kick that off.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity. And I thought it would be worth the council's time this evening as we talk about the future development on the east side of Interstate 10 to provide a bit of an update on wastewater effluent in general. I think it really establishes a context for some of the direction that we've been transpiring. Obviously, the mayor and council has heard numerous updates on those topics over the course of the last 4 years, but I thought an update just kind of leading into the dialogue on the east side, and more importantly, talk about some of the policy landscape that is transpiring primarily on the water side, because as everyone knows, we find ourselves in the Pinal AMA in a situation with the water model that we've been looking for, not necessarily an immediate current type of a solution for future development, but there are some rulemaking processes that I know the council is aware of that are underway that really ties very nicely into the overall discussion and the potential of the partnership with Arizona Water on the east side.
And Larry, if I could introduce Fred Schneider. Fred Schneider, wave your hand, Fred, is the president of Arizona Water, so he's here tonight. So if we have some questions, I know he's available to us to answer some questions.
He's here to correct me every time I go afoul, Mr.
There you
Mayor.
go.
And so I am going to be attempting to run the advancer, take notes, and present concurrently. And so, and really, if I can, just kind of, I want to say this, that there's a convergence of all of this that is happening very, very rapidly within our environment. And I recognize that on many occasions, staff is asking council to consider various agreements and or policy choices in the context that things may be unclear. And we really find ourselves in a couple of scenarios where we don't have all of the answers today, but the lack of moving forward on a number of these projects will certainly hurt us in the long run. And so I believe that the presentation will assist us in following that. There is not, I think it's important to note that the council will not be taking action on any item this evening. This is really just an update overview. I'll be taking brief pauses at each section so that you can ask any specific questions that you might have, because it really kind of builds the context, and the questions build to the next dialogue that we'll have as we move to the end. So please ask the questions if you're uncertain about any area that I cover. But ultimately what we're looking for is direction from the council to ensure that staff is on the right page and council's in alignment with the direction that we're going as a staff. So if I can just spend a very quick minute, and again, I know the mayor and council is very aware of the current wastewater environment that we've in and that we're in today, and overall the policy that we've been following at the city for a number of years related to our wastewater, and there's a number of moving parts. We've allocated roughly $80+ million in capital improvements over the course of the last few years towards our wastewater efforts. And so what you'll find is that some of these there's some expansions that are underway as we speak, and I'll talk very briefly about those here in a second. But our wastewater reclamation facility is currently permitted at a 12 MGD. We're processing just north of 6 million gallons a day at our wastewater treatment plant. Obviously, there's been some current demands with the new arrival of our industrial development. Their flows into our wastewater plant sometimes exceeds many of our residential flows. And so we're trying to stay ahead of that because of the growth we've experienced. We do have one managed recharge facility that we are discharging to. It is in essence the North Branch of the Santa Cruz Wash. We do have some permitting issues for discharge there, and I'll talk a little more about that. But currently today, outside of what we are selling in effluent to under a few contracts, we are discharging that effluent into our managed recharge facility and are generating long-term storage credits daily through that discharge. The overall vision of the city a decade ago, and maybe even a bit longer than that up to this point, has essentially been that the city of Casa Grande would operate one facility, one wastewater facility in the city, in essence, run main lines to that facility. And the overall game plan at one point in time is that with the land that we acquired, we could essentially build 50 MGD at the site off of Courtson Road. We want to talk a little bit about that tonight, obviously, with this east side. And I indicate, and again, this is just for information for everyone, that there are 2 current wastewater operators within the planning area. And what I mean by that is that on our west side, Global Water is within our planning area, and they are permitted through through the 208 process to actually be a provider of wastewater services on the west side of our community. That was an MOU that the city approved probably 15 years ago. Obviously, they've not built anything within our planning area because there's not been any need for that today, but they have continued to make plans to build something on the west side. And in fact, one of the solutions for our Copper Mountain Ranch development, when that moves forward, is that a portion of that development will be served by a wastewater treatment plant on the west side of the community that would be operated by Global Water. So it's not uncommon for us to have other partnerships. That one has not been memorialized other than memorandum of understanding. There's still a number of processes that would be necessary for them to operate within the city of Casa Grande. Mayor and Council is very aware of the money that you have allocated, the funding that you've allocated to our wastewater projects in the vision to actually expand our wastewater reclamation facility from 12 to 18 million gallons per day. That project is underway, and there's a lot of technology improvements happening at the plant. But ultimately, when we're done with that, we'll be able to process up to 18 MGD under the permits at that particular site. Most recently, the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality approved what is known as a ZIPD's discharge permit into the Santa Cruz Wash. And so for the last 3 years, we've been challenged with what I would consider to be balancing the processing capabilities of the plant with our discharging capabilities. And so we were successful at a permit that would ultimately discharge into our managed recharge facility that was recently approved. And there is a timeline on that, but ultimately we believe that because we're making the treatment processes improve to an A+ quality, that 16 million gallons is something that we can rely on that north branch. As you know, and I said the balancing act, it still does not reach the 18 million, but we have our west side effluent reuse line that is underway as well. That is the line that will run from our plant and actually run on Bianco Road south and ultimately to another discharge point at the Santa Cruz Wash itself. I will tell you that when we went through when we developed the plan and articulated that to the mayor and council, and I know that you heard a couple of updates along the way on that, our thought was at that point in time that would be more of a reuse line because we were running it into our industrial area. A number of those industrial businesses that we have in our community were interested in utilizing effluent versus groundwater. And that is still an option today, and we continue to have dialogue with many of those users in that particular area. But ultimately, we will look to we'll complete the line to the Santa Cruz Wash. We'll ultimately look to get an additional discharge permit in that area of 10 MGD. So you'll see that our discharge capability is greater than our processing today, which is a very good thing. And the mayor and council is well aware of the constructed recharge facility that we ultimately are pursuing today. We've asked for funding to actually do the design of a plant that would be roughly 6 million gallons, I believe, a day, that ultimately is adjacent to our wastewater treatment plant. That would become another recharge facility known as a constructed recharge facility, where we could actually receive long-term storage credits for the recharge at that particular site as well. At the end of the day, the ultimate vision and plan of the staff was to control 100% of that effluent within our city limits. We wanted to keep it here versus running it down washes that exited our boundary. And there's a lot of benefit for that because of the potential use of effluent both today and in the future. It will bring up an interesting policy discussion that we'll be having in the months to come, and I'll talk a little bit about that here in a bit. But, oh, I went backwards, didn't I? I do want to just, are there any questions on the current conditions and the projects that we have underway related to wastewater? I guess just one additional point that I want to briefly discuss related, because I think it has a huge bearing on the potential of the partnership and building other sites, other wastewater facilities on the east side, is that, as you might imagine, there is, with any recharge facility, as we're generating credits, in order to utilize those credits, you have to recover those credits from an area of hydrologic impact known as a safe harbor. And one of the things that we seriously considered as a staff when we elected to build the constructed recharge facility is that it is pretty much adjacent to our constructed recharge. So we're not really gaining a new safe harbor in this particular. It will expand our existing safe harbor, but we are not actually placing that. So any of the effluent that would be recovered would have to be pumped to other locations if we were going to use that.
Larry, the difference too is if we put it in Santa Cruz, we don't get 100% of the credit. If we put it in a recharge facility, we get 100% of the credit.
That is a very good point, Mayor. The managed recharge is we're getting 90% of what we're recharging as a credit. The Casa Grande became what I would consider to be a benefactor of that through some statutes that were passed a number of years ago. Typically, if you're running a managed recharge facility, you're not getting the 90%, but in our case, we are. And the constructed recharge that we're working on now, there's a capability for us to get 100% of that recharge. There's some variations to that based on rainfall and just the evaporation and the like. But ultimately, the constructed recharge will generate more credits than the managed site.
Plus, when we put it in the Santa Cruz, if the Santa Cruz is running, we get zero.
Zero, correct.
So when it runs and we still have to discharge, all that's lost.
There's no credits being generated at that point.
Right.
If there's any interruptions, for example, when San Carlos Irrigation releases the water and it runs to the middle part of our town and across near Courtson Road into our golf course, we're not getting any credits when they're releasing their irrigation waters as well. So there are some challenges with our managed recharge that ultimately we want to resolve, again, as part of our vision and plan in the future. I do want to just, if there's no additional questions on wastewater as we know it today, I do want to talk just very, very briefly of this convergence of water. And as the mayor and council is aware, we currently in Casa Grande are known as, there's a certificated assured water supply that Arizona Water actually is awarded, and any development or subdivision that occurs today requires a certificate of assured water supply, 100 years assured water supply. Everyone is aware that after the model was generated, there have not been any new certificates issued in Pinal AMA or in Casa Grande. And so there's been a stakeholder group that's been working from Pinal County that's been working diligently, primarily led by a number of the water providers and some of the municipalities to try to find solutions to that water model. One of the options that is really beginning to advance is this concept of an ADOS. And the ADOS concept was a recommendation from the Governor's Water Policy Council. And essentially what it is, an alternative path to assured water supply is the designation. But at the end of the day, what it would do is establish rules to address challenges to some of the water providers in the Pinal AMA and maybe even in Maricopa County as well, in the Maricopa AMA, that in pursuing a new 100-year assured supply. They're obviously in the rulemaking process now. There's a fair amount of discussion that is taking place. We believe that we're headed towards a positive outcome, but essentially, and I certainly don't want to talk about a whole lot about water here, but I will say that it can be one of the options for future development in Casa Grande. And effluent is, at least in my opinion, going to play a very key role as a foundational component of any ADOS application. And but it will serve as an option to many of the providers in Pinal County if we're successful with the rulemaking. There's been what I would consider to be a tremendous bit of support by the Pinal stakeholders. I think last we heard there were 200 or 300 letters of support, and so it still needs to be considered by the council. We're hoping that we have a positive outcome from that, and there's obviously some statutory rulemaking changes that need to take place, but we remain positive on that front.
Larry, if I can add a little bit,
Sure.
bit of context there. So Arizona Department of Water has proposed some rules that will allow for a new alternative designated water supply, which could lead or give a path for Arizona Water Company that is not a designated water provider. They rely on CAUS, the Certificates of Assured Water, which means you have to have it based on a plat of land. This would allow for the expansion of a development without having a cause. So it's a rulemaking committee that then hears from the various state departments. I mean, they handle all kinds of different rules changes, and they have the meeting once a month here for the next couple of months, and we have an opportunity to get that rule passed that then would allow for the pathway for Arizona Water Company to then become an alternative designated water provider, which would be huge for us. And it would be huge for Coolidge, it'd be big for Buckeye, Queen Creek, because none of them are designated water provider areas, right? So they're, EPCOR out in Santan is not a designated water provider. So all of those companies that are not designated water providers would have a pathway to become a designated water provider. So it's a huge deal. So, sorry.
And certainly will impact our future development in Casa Grande. But I think the important message, again, we talked about the evolving policy environment. This is one of those policies that is still in process. There's still some consideration. There's applications that need to be filed. There's water that needs to be acquired and brought to the region as a physical supply. I bring it up because I think it is a key component to our consideration of anything that's happening on the east side of town, where there's very few certificated developments there. So I want to talk just very briefly on effluent, as identified as an assured water supply, and the mayor and I have touched on really the concept, but effluent could be stored and recovered for use by future development through an ADOS process, must be recovered within the area of hydrologic impact, safe harbor that we've talked about, which is typically 1 mile around the recharge site, and agreeing on a long-term effluent use allocation strategy is going to be vitally important. And we are not proposing a policy tonight to this mayor and council, but in essence, at least for my chair, it is something that we are working on as a staff that we're going to begin to introduce to the mayor and council. Effluent is going to become a key to the ADOS process. We see the opportunity to reuse perhaps on shorter terms. Again, at the end of the day, at least in the staff's opinion, we need to be capitalizing on the effluent for current and future use and growth. So if I can use that as a bit of a springboard or a segue to talk about the development plan, and I know in February of 2024, Mr. Snyder made a presentation to the mayor and council on some discussions that were really being facilitated by one particular development, but with some interest by a handful of others that are in that area. And I talked just very briefly a minute ago about the fact that we do have 3 specific developments that have certificates of assured water supply on our east side. One of the challenges that we have seen on the east side of Interstate 10 is that the infrastructure is lacking. And as an example to that, there was sewer lines that were run to Mission Royale in cooperation with development in the city a number of years ago when Mission Royale development transpired and when the Promenade Mall built. But the capacity on those lines are really built for those particular developments. So there's a lot of engineering that goes into the slope of those lines and whatnot, and the line and the size that was ultimately established. And so the idea of the 3 developments that are adjacent to Mission Royale simply connecting from a wastewater perspective to the city's line is unlikely because there's not sufficient capacity. When you consider the potential of an ADOS transpiring and the development interest that has transpired on the east side, and really the primary obstacle has been the access to a water supply. If ADOS opens up, there's likely going to be additional interest. I will say that we have seen for the power provider in this area, which is primarily ED2, Electric District Number 2, they have even modified their policies most recently to encourage development on this side, and that is driving a fair amount of interest, particularly by the Post Ranch development. I know the mayor and council has considered some entitlements on that particular development recently, and that was part of the driver that really got the city of Casa Grande and Arizona Water around the table to really have some dialogue about the potential of developing a wastewater reclamation or treatment facility at that particular site. And so you have a couple of others that are adjacent that have certificate in the Spring Water Point, the Hacienda Estates, and Phoenix Mart, who has expressed continued interest in infrastructure in this particular region. And so when Arizona Water and the city of Casa Grande begin to have dialogue with these developers, really what the primary interest was is to go out and ascertain what their flows may be and try to time those. What we're finding is that most development does not want to capitalize infrastructure if they're not going to build tomorrow. And so really what the concept that Arizona Water came up with that was introduced in February was one that would essentially size the package plant. I'm going to show council a couple of examples of those to meet the immediate demands that might be driven by these developments, but ultimately allow the option to easily expand to meet the demands as development continues. Intuitively, I anticipate that once development occurs out there, and it very likely will be post-ranch, you're going to find these other developers feel like they have an easier path because some of that infrastructure need is going to be there. We're going to have to navigate that, and I say we will be part of the group that has to do that simply because of the fact that at least in my mind, all of the infrastructure is going to have to grow as development transpires. And so developers need to be a partner with us in ensuring that we're not oversizing capacity, but that it's there when they need it. And so when we began our discussion, we did meet, Mr. Snyder and I did meet with a number of property owners on the east side. They all, about the idea of a concept of a new wastewater treatment plant on the east side. A number of them expressed interest, but indicated that they would likely be at a future phase as the growth continued. We did have discussions with Pinal County during that time as well. As you see, the map that is on this particular screen, that is within our planning area and or incorporated city limits today. It essentially matches our 208 boundary. But the county had expressed an interest in perhaps citing a regional facility that would allow them to change some of their entitlements. Most of the entitlements that are transpiring in the county today are 1 acre, which is what is mandatory for a septic system. And so the thought is that if you had a regional system on the east side, you ultimately could reduce the size of those lots and serve it with a wastewater treatment plant. So, but as the conversation went on, it became clear that at least today that we were going to focus within our area and with the potential option in the future that perhaps county area, if it's annexed or like, could have access to one of the proposed sites. And so, and again, these maps are what was introduced in February, but ultimately Arizona Water would align their 208 planning area to match the city's DMA east of Interstate 10. So it is in essence the darker orange area would be the area that Arizona Water would be proposing to serve wastewater in this particular region. And there are a number of mechanisms that are necessary for them to do that. First, that we would need to do a 208 amendment. The city's in the process of amending ours. Ultimately, we would add language that would allow Arizona Water to serve in this area. And there would be a licensing agreement that would be necessary for between the city of Casa Grande and Arizona Water, and that really would drive the use of the effluent. And then agreement defines arrangements for wastewater services as outlined here. And I think what's important, I want to make sure that our residents know this as well, is that the city currently serves Mission Royale in the Promenade area. I've talked about that. But they are on the east side, and there could be a potential, although this plan, at least today, does not suggest that they're going to continue to be served through the infrastructure that they have. But ultimately there could be a potential at some point in time where this entire region could be served by the plants that would be built in that particular area.
Larry,
Yeah.
would it behoove us to carve out the Mission Royale and the Promenade in the 208?
I don't necessarily know that you'd need to carve it out, Mr. Mayor, because essentially what the 208 amendment does is allows both the city of Casa Grande as well as Arizona Water to be the wastewater provider. I will say that one of the elements that Mr. Snyder and I have been having discussions about related to a potential partnership with an approach that would build plants on the east side is the issue of a variable, the differences of having two different rates, the city having a rate and Arizona Water having a rate. And that is something that we're looking to work through. But at the end of the day, at least under the beginning of this process, the thought is that we would continue to provide Mission Royale and the Promenade with the service through the city plant and treat it there. That's not to say that there wouldn't be a day that we wouldn't evaluate keeping it on the east side. That it just hasn't really been studied too much. And I'm sure Fred will want to make a few comments at the end of this. He may even have a few ideas from his perspective. Just one last thing on the Mission Royale. We did evaluate the idea of it becoming a load, if you will, for at the start of a new plant on that side, that we would serve those particular developments with the east side wastewater treatment plant. But after reviewing it and having additional dialogue, we elected to essentially keep that on the city's plant.
It'll be hard to change the slope on all the pipe, especially
Perhaps.
the wastewater treatment
Perhaps,
stuff,
right.
I would think.
And I don't know that we got into that level of technical review, but Mayor, the point is certainly well taken.
Yeah, okay.
And so as we begin to have dialogue with the users on the east side and really trying to outline exactly the best course of action, I think that through the analysis that was done and through the discussions with the developers that would be of most interested, in that case being Post Ranch, it was decided that ultimately that we would focus on two facilities. One that would be located on Post Ranch land itself, and would serve a specific region. It would likely serve the other two developments that are adjacent that have certificates. And then ultimately, at some point, a north facility that would be actually north of the post-ranch site that would not only serve the broader region, but would also be cited as the future regional wastewater recharge facility. And at least in my mind, that becomes very key when you begin to consider the ADOS and the like, because you begin to establish a new recharge area there with a new hydrological area, a new safe harbor area, and which at the end of the day could potentially open up new development on the east side of the interstate. But at the end of the day, the key to this particular plan was essentially one that would allow for that timing of development and growth and construction of these plants to be built around those. And this particular slide just shows a couple of the examples. Arizona Water has worked very closely with PERC Water. Our city staff has met with them as well. I know our city staff has toured a couple of these particular facilities along with that team. I wanted just to give the mayor and council a concept. What we have found is that cities that are experiencing tremendous growth are beginning to utilize this particular technology and this particular concept to ultimately meet the demands simply based on location. And so you see Surprise, Goodyear, Buckeye, and Red Rock have used that. You can see the example with Red Rock where they've got the recharge basin adjacent to it there as well. But these plants ultimately can be, as I said before, can be expanded to meet the current demands, and they can be expanded in increments, I think, as little as 500,000 gallons a day. Typically, you're looking at about 1 million gallon facility. I know Arizona Water has done some analysis on those demands, but they really are serving some of these communities that are seeing a tremendous amount of growth. If I can just talk about some of the action items that are underway. Obviously, Arizona Water, in order for them to operate in the wastewater space, they would need to go before the Corporation Commission, and they have filed their application, have been having dialogue with the team there. The application is will be considered by the board on November 13th of this month. The 208, I've talked a little bit about the joint application to allow Arizona Water. Some of that happens concurrently. But I can anticipate that the Arizona Corporation Commission would be looking for the city to be supportive of both of these as they consider that item. And then the two items that I talked about that really become council action items, which is a licensing agreement that would happen between the city of Casa Grande and Arizona Water Company, and then a potential development agreement between the city of Casa Grande and developer. Because as you might imagine, there's a number of discussions that need to take place. If Arizona Water is capitalizing, or they're asking the development community to capitalize this, then we have to evaluate things like our development impact fees, rates, and those types of things. But those last two items are items that would need to come back before the council and ultimately get your approval on. Tonight, when I had indicated that we were looking for direction, is that, based on all of the activity that's been going on and the request from the development community, my plan was to support the CCN application and the 208 amendment, and wanted to ensure that we were, as a city, on the same path, that the council was supportive of that. And ultimately understanding that really I see, at least from my seat, the potential change in the philosophy of one plant, one region, to ultimately perhaps having multiple plants in the community, and essentially creating these recharge areas that can be identified as the safe harbor positions. And as I started my initial comments, there are still policies that are underway. The development community many times want to advance regardless of where we're at with policies that are being made by the state or on water or wastewater. And so I thought this would be a good opportunity to brief the council, update the council on what we've done, what our vision is. I anticipate that we'll reach the 18 MGD plant. We'll get that done in the next 18 months. Ultimately, with the industrial use and the growth that we're seeing in our community, I can see it, the need for us to immediately begin another phase of planning to even expand it greater than that. And there will still be plenty of demands, a number of demands on our existing plant. This just gives us flexibility and options on the outer skirts of our community, on the east side with Arizona Water, on the west side with Global Water, and ultimately opens the door to future development through this ADOS process. So with that, Mr. Mayor and Council, I will pause, take any notes, answer any questions that you might have.
Sir, if I can, I'll take a point of preference here to kind of talk a little bit about this since I've been pretty involved in it. And that if you look at what we have with our wastewater treatment facilities, they're supposed to pay for themselves, right? So they're enterprise funds. And so to develop the east side, it would cost us a lot of money and a lot of our taxpayers a lot of money to develop that east side. And so by potentially privatizing some of the wastewater treatment, it allows us to move forward in advance of what we as a city probably would have done, especially with the smaller package plants put on the east side. It allows for even Post Ranch to not potentially, but probably develop. And it also fits nicely with this potential ADOS, the ADOS process that is going to allow for Arizona Water to actually become a designated water provider, which then would allow for further development on the east side without having to have certificates of assured water, which the east side does not have other than those three plats of, the 1, 2, and the 3 that were on the map. Those have certificates, but that's it. Those are the only 3. So I think it makes good sense to bring in a private partner. It's part of our strategic plan as well. If you remember, the strategic plan did say that we would look at the possibility of private enterprise to take over where we felt it might be more efficient for them to do it. And in this case, we operate it not to make money at it anyway, so it's a break-even thing for us. So if we allow private enterprise to come in, I think it'll allow for earlier development than we currently would do as a city. Plus, it would also help support, I think, some of the ADOS and the water rules that are coming down from the state. I think that Arizona Water Company has been a good partner of ours. They have really worked very, very hard, actually, the last 5 or 6 years with the city and staff, myself included, to try and kind of build this partnership that I think we can move forward with. So from my perspective, I think it's a good move. Obviously, you have questions, please ask.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, just before we get into the questions, and I obviously want to make sure that Mr. Snyder has time to make any comments if he'd like. We've been told by the Post Ranch developers that they would like to begin to move forward in about the next 18 months. So that talks about the timing, the need for flexibility. Obviously, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. They've gotten their entitlements finalized, but once they begin to move forward, obviously it'll be imperative that the utilities are moving forward with their development as well. So 18 to 24 months, and I know that has been changing a little bit. We've been meeting somewhat regularly with the developer, but they continue to stay very engaged and optimistic about opening Post Ranch up for development.
And how many lots was that, Larry? 24?
Let me go back. I think it was 2,400, Mayor, give or take.
2,400 lots.
2432.
Yeah, and this doesn't cost our current taxpayers anything.
31.
That's I think the beauty of this plan is that this is future development paying for future development. Matt?
So a couple questions. One is we had a plan for the sewer main to go down Cottonwood Lane at one point. Would this be replacing that, or would that still?
It was actually scheduled to go down Courtson.
Courtson, okay.
Right, and ultimately serve
Under the
this
freeway,
east side. There was an agreement that was executed between the city of Casa Grande and the East Side Sewer Group, is what they referred to themselves, but the property owners within that corridor ultimately serving the Phoenix Mart.
Okay, so this would take the place of all?
Yes.
All of that.
There would still need to be, obviously, it was one of the questions that the property owners asked, so there would still be a need for sewer main infrastructure to transport from those developments or those properties into the wastewater plant.
This might
But
tilt the
yes,
other way
it
now.
would be different than what was actually designed for that.
Okay. And then, yeah, I don't want to, what Craig said, you know, we're working a lot with Arizona Water in the last 5-10 years, gotten a lot better than it had been in the past. And I appreciate that. One thing I've talked to some people about, the concern would be with not a concern, but something we need to do in our agreement is the effluent, because as we've talked about, a lot of times it's going to be more and more valuable as we get further down the road. So I just want to be aware, I mean, I'm sure you guys are aware of that. So I don't even know if we're to the point of how that would work yet, but we don't want to give everything away, you know.
Right.
We want it, but I do agree with, if private industry can do it, let's work with them to do it and let these people pay for their growth instead of putting it on the backs of people who've been here.
Yeah, if I can, Councilmember Herman, and I'll certainly let Fred address that. I think the plan on the east side has been that any of the effluent that could potentially be utilized would be utilized within Casa Grande, right? And ultimately, that'd be memorialized into that licensing agreement that I referenced a bit ago.
Right, it wouldn't leave.
Okay, yeah, so it'd stay in our safe
Stay in
harbor
our city.
area.
Right.
And be used for the benefit of that for recharging, because I think the ADOS, the ADOS is gonna have a lot to do with, or that's gonna have a lot to do with the ADOS, if I'm not
Still
mistaken.
working.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else? Anybody else have any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Following up on that, so will the city continue to own or manage that effluent, or will Arizona Water, but then it'll just stay in the city?
You wanna?
Thank you, Fred.
Councilwoman Fitzgibbons, Mayor, Council. The plan would be that the effluent would be owned by Arizona Water Company. So we would build the recharge facilities, store the water, and then recover that water, that effluent, as needed for new development. Our commitment is that all the effluent generated from that facility would be used for development in the Casa Grande proper. That water wouldn't be used for anything else. It came from Casa Grande. It should be used for Casa Grande, but the focus that would be to bolster the water supply for the designation so we can get more certificated or more platted properties. So with more platted properties, we get more effluent, we can plat more properties, so that's considered a renewable supply. So that's the value, is to make sure that we can keep the development process going.
And there's been a lot of talk about effluent and making sure, and you brought it up, Larry, as far as making sure that we agree on a long-term plan and strategy. So I guess that's the only thing that kind of concerns me a little is, to give up that effluent. I get it that it's used for Casa Grande, but, you hear it so much of how critical that is and
Yeah, but
how much it
we're
means
not,
to the
we're not the
city.
ones collecting it. It's not our collection
Right.
system. We didn't pay for the collection system. We're not paying to have it treated like we are today.
Right.
Right, so that truly is ours. I mean,
Right.
And so we should be able to do what we want with it. But I think the best that we can expect is that water stay in the city of Casa
Right.
Grande. So, but it'll still be used then for development.
Right.
So we didn't lose it. So it stays here. The one thing about effluent too, and somewhere down in the future, and there are some rule changes that are coming down from the state, from ADEQ, with regard to how that water gets processed. And so those rule changes will make a big difference in terms of how water processors like us and like Arizona Water then can use that water. So eventually, there'll be direct potable reuse. I mean, it's coming. And so when that happens, there'll be another processing plant that takes it to potable stage, and then that water could literally be pumped wherever you want it. because it's new water supply. It doesn't, it's not dictated by a 1 mile radius, it's not dictated by, because you didn't stick it in the ground, it's potable, direct potable reuse. And it can be piped wherever you need it. And I think ultimately that's,
Outside Casa Grande as well.
well, but in this agreement, it will not go
Right,
outside of
right.
Casa Grande.
It would
Right,
stay
so
in
that
Casa
means
Grande.
that agreement could come up that it could go outside.
But you'd have to approve it,
Exactly.
you as a
But-
city council.
So.
I mean, you
but my
could, you
thought
could
proc-
sell it.
The thought process is though, we're trying to see what's best for Casa Grande. Okay.
Right.
All right, so I think that's where you're at. And so, with what may come down with Dawes, there's something could come up where it's rejected out where Casa Grande does not have the control of it. That's where I'm at.
No, that's not,
Okay,
not gonna.
okay, Larry, and so I just wanted to make sure
And
that we understand that.
that's right.
You know what I'm saying? As
And
we
we
move
maintain-
forward.
Absolutely
We maintain control.
understand. And I think it's important to note that when I talk about an allocation policy of the effluent, it's what we're generating today. I do anticipate that we're going to move into a state where most developers, when they come to the community to develop, they're going to be asking the city for the portion to control the effluent. What's being generated out of their development and ensuring that it goes back to their development to ensure that they could perhaps
continue to
find a
build
path to
their building.
continued development. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that is at least in my mind, that is likely what we're going to be faced with in the next couple of years.
Yeah, we're a long way from that, but.
Right.
But, I mean, if you think about if we got to 18 million gallons output per day, I calculated at 6 million gallons today.
Right.
That if we reprocess that effluent, we could build another 12,000 homes and supply water to those homes on the 6 million gallons per day that we create today. Now, it's gonna cost you some
I
money
would say that sounds good.
to process it to potable state, but it would support a lot of homes. So
And-
the point is that we want to manage that, right, Larry? We want to manage
correct.
that with Arizona Water's help and our help. We don't want to cost our citizens a lot of money to be able to do that. And we can build out the east side with the help of Arizona Water and not put it on the backs of the rest of the city.
So Mayor,
Go
I
ahead,
wanted to go back to a point that you talked about the rates, and Larry talked about the concerns with Mission Royale there, and, we're break even, we're government, city, but it's a private company. So, of course, you get, your concerns that there might be some drastic, differences in the rates. And so in the development agreement, can we manage that at all to see if it
It's going to
can
be
stay,
Corporation Commission.
I think
That
there's
is
a
a-
couple. I
yeah.
think there's a couple of elements that that the city can do to manage that. Councilmember Fitzgibbons. The first is, and in fact, we are headed towards an analysis of our rates within our wastewater treatment plant, our wastewater fund, this fiscal year. So it's important for everyone to recognize that many of the capital infrastructure projects that we've started these last few years have been funded with construction sales tax. It's not been funded through our wastewater fund. And so essentially, we need to do a rate analysis to really take a gauge of where our rates are comparatively to what the overall rates are in the community. It is something that Mr. Snyder and I have talked about, and essentially what you try to avoid is a scenario where you have a road, if you will, and you've got resident A on this side paying X, and you got resident B paying Y, right? And so we will have to look at it much differently than we have in the past of being the only provider in the community, in my mind. I don't know that you ever land on an exact rate, but I suspect that you can get very close because of the processes that are required, right? For municipalities, it requires the mayor and council's approval. There is a process that you have to go through for any rate, for any effluent rate or wastewater rate. For a private entity, they're going to the Corporation Commission. They're having to justify it there as well. But I do think that working together, that we can likely get very close to those rates so that it's not, for example, what we may see between us and Maricopa today, where residents there are paying $95 a month, right? And so, essentially it's going to require us to look at it and probably take a process that we've not taken before, but I do think it can be managed.
There's a lot of work been done on it, so I guess the question is, does anybody have any issues with Larry supporting their process to go forward? No.
No.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
I had another.
Go ahead, Matt.
Looking at this, so we're at about 12 million gallons a day. This is.
No, we're at 6 right now.
Or 6, yeah, going up to 12. This is only 1.6 million a day. Do you anticipate it growing that much more faster? I remember in the last presentation, I remember that you had the pictures of the package plants and the more modern ones that work really well, and I appreciate that. How big would those plants be, and is that enough?
So at Build Out, when we planned that orange area, the reason we developed 2 wastewater facilities is that each facility is going to be built between 12 and 15 MGD apiece. So if you look at the city's facility, we'd be looking at about 2 of those facilities to take care of that entire area. And that's a projection at Build Out. Who knows when that happens, but that's probably on the high side, but we'd rather plan on the high side and have a little extra space if we ever needed it.
It's just not a lot at the beginning. Guess you got to start somewhere, right?
Well, there's nothing out there right now.
We're at 0 right now.
What is the initial package plant?
Yeah, I guess that's kind
I
of.
believe the first phase is 250,000 gallons is the first phase. It's about half a Post Ranch. So the plan was to build half a Post Ranch in the first phase, expand it for the third, and then that's about the time that Springwater Point, Hacienda Estates would be ready, and that would be like phase 3.
Okay. Thanks, Larry. That's.
So making it
you understood
modular so we can build it as we go.
A question on, because you asked if we approve the process, so what does that mean? So I know you have the
Go ahead,
steps
Larry.
in here. So if we approve the process and then we get to the licensing and the development agreement, and if there's any issues at that
We're
point,
okay with him, this piece right here.
Supporting the partnership at the Arizona Corporation Commission and the joint application for the 208.
right,
Those are the first 2 processes in getting them that territory that
okay,
was
to
outlined.
start it, and then we
Right.
move into these
Right.
next 2
And then
with the
coming-
city,
That's right.
Yep. Because none of this has been done.
right.
If something does not get, if either the CCN or the 208 is not supported, then ultimately there's not a need for a licensing agreement.
Right. Okay,
Thank you.
okay. Thanks, Fred. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. All right, then we'll stand adjourned until 7 o'clock. We'll start the regular meeting. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. We'll start tonight's city council meeting. Welcome to our November 4th meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. Our first two items on our agenda are our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight we have Pastor Gabriel Hughes from the Providence Reformed Baptist Church with us tonight. Welcome, Gabriel, and please remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. If you would join me in prayer. Our Father in heaven, holy is your name. We come to you on the eve of this election, grateful for your kindness and mercy toward us. The book of Romans tells us that your kindness is meant to lead us to repentance. Grant us humble hearts as these men and women do the business of our fair city tonight in the interest of the people that they have been appointed by God to lead. Thank you, God, for our first responders, law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, and EMTs who work to protect and to serve. My wife was in an accident just a few months ago, and so I am personally thankful for their work. Bless our judges also and grant them wisdom to reward the good and punish evil, and justice would prevail according to your word. Our forefathers recognized that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. May justice be done even for preborn children, and that your Spirit would so move in the hearts of this people so that Proposition 139 would not pass, recognizing that the right to life and the protection of our laws be granted also to them. May the grace of God be proclaimed through your gospel and known in our community. And we know with all our hearts that Jesus Christ is Lord. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen. Our pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Anthony. Let the roll call show that all members of the council are present. Our next item is item C, our minutes.
Mayor McFarland, I move that we approve the minutes of the council regular meeting of October 21st, 2024, and accept the minutes of the Community Service Advisory Board meeting of September the 26th, 2024, accept the minutes of the Police Personnel Retirement Board meeting of August 15th, 2024, and accept the minutes of the Airport Advisory Board minutes of September the 24th, 2024, and accept the minutes of the Youth Commission meeting of September the 14th, 2024.
Second?
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. The minutes are approved. Next is claims against the city, item D1.
Mayor McFarland, I move to accept and pay the claims dated October 16th through 29th, 2024, as presented.
Second?
All right, a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Claims are approved. Next is our meeting agenda. Mr. Raines, is there any change from staff? We have no changes, Mr. Mayor. Council? Anyone? All right, seeing no changes, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. We have no special presentations. Consent agenda is item G. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion and one roll call vote of the council. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or member of the public so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. Is there any consent agenda item that council wants removed? Anyone from the public? Okay, seeing none, then I'll entertain.
Mayor McFarland,
Motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender. Yes. Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next is item H, which is our public comments. This is an opportunity for the public to address the council. If there's anyone here in the chamber who would like to address the council, please approach the podium, state your name and your address, and please remember you have 3 minutes, and that this is not an agendized item, so the council cannot comment. Anyone? All right, seeing nobody jump up, then I'm going to close the public comment section, and we'll move to item I. Item I1, award of contracts. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. We're here tonight because staff recommends that the Mayor and City Council approve the purchase of one mobile command post from LDV Incorporated and authorize the city manager to enter into the appropriate contracts for this acquisition. The total amount of this is $570,633 plus any applicable taxes. The funding for this is going to be found partially from the Gila River Indian Community Grant Funds that were awarded under a resolution that was already accepted, 5631. The total grant was for the amount of $455,722, which would leave a difference of $146,866.45 that is not covered by the grant, but will be covered by city funds under capital projects and/or police funds, police donation line. The total cost of this vehicle will amount to $602,588.45. I know that you have a visual outline of a drawing of this command post, but what I did, Mr. Weaver just put up 4 pictures or 2 pictures, but there's 4 total of what this command post will look like, obviously minus Laredo Police Department. This is the exact model and exactly how our command post would look. This is built under specifications just solely for the CGPD. We will have a say in partly on how the interior of this looks as where things are situated. And with that, I'd answer any questions.
Well, first of all, thank you to the Gila River Indian community.
Very much so.
Yeah. It's part of about a $2.7 million grants that we got this year for nonprofits and for the city. So, yeah, good job. Thank you, Chief. And thanks again to the Gila River.
One thing I do want to mention is that this has been on our CIP ever since I've been here. Obviously, the cost of this, there's things more urgent. But Lieutenant Chris Palmer is the one that took this bull by the horns, if you will, and decided that this year he was going to apply for a grant. And,
That's awesome.
And graciously, we were awarded that grant that puts us on this path to getting a new command post. I know looking at that command post, it looks like a lot, but these things are lasting 20 to 25 years as long as you upgrade the technical side of things. So we're buying this not only for what our use today, but our use in probably 2 generations of police officers to follow us.
Good, excellent. Any questions or comments? Yeah, go ahead.
Just a comment, I'm really glad to see this, and I'm anxious to take a tour of it. My only
You want to drive it, Bob?
I'd love to. My only disappointment is that it didn't cost as much as a fire truck, but
That was one of the conditions that we put into this in the initial contract, that we had to come in under a fire truck.
Oh, gosh. Any other comments or questions? All right. Wow, okay. Seeing none, I'll call for an ordinance number, please, Gloria.
Ordinance number 3451, an ordinance of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting the bid from LDV Inc. for the purchase of a mobile command center, authorizing expenditure of public funds, authorizing execution of a contract with or purchase order to LDV Inc., and authorizing the transfer of budget authority.
Mayor McFarland, I would move for approval of ordinance number 3451 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Herman,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards,
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next is item I2. This is resolution number 5713.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Staff recommends that the mayor and city council authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Wilson and Company for the amount of $137,360 for the wastewater capacity improvements Phase 4B upgrade evaluation. As everyone's aware, we are underway with construction of our Phase 1 of this project, where Wilson and Company helped us develop a very fast-paced plan and a way to get ahead of development so that we didn't find ourselves in a situation where we had to tell development no. So we've got that treatment capacity. We're currently under construction to bring the plant from 12 to 18 million gallons a day, and that project is going quite smoothly. However, the current plant expansion required us to repurpose a lot of the old pretreatment basins and the influent equalization to avoid upgrading the downstream processes, and omitted other improvements that we would typically take into consideration with a plant expansion of 50% of our capacity. So to complete the capacity upgrade, we're going to be moving forward with this project where Wilson and Company will complete the engineering analysis and define what portions of the plant need to be upgraded in this Phase 4B of the upgrade. So we'll be looking at cost analysis, design those improvements. We'll be looking at plant security, odor control systems, and developing a presentation to summarize what the results of that study is. This will help us plan for our future plant upgrades that will be needed and to support our request for our next CIPs. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions from anyone? Yeah.
I think, Kevin, I had some questions for him this week. So we've been hearing around about the odors that you can smell sometimes from the treatment plant. And I asked about that, and Kevin and his staff were very informative about why. Basically, it comes down to the weather this time of year with the temperatures changing and the bacteria, and there's a lot of stuff about it if you want to know. But Kevin and I came up with a plan to maybe make some public service announcements about this so we can put it out to the residents and so they know how the system works and what's going on. And another thing is we did oversize the sewer in some places back in the early 2000s, late 2000s, and now we're finally getting enough homes to push the stuff down the sewer. So it should help it should help that odor problem. So again, appreciate it, Kevin, and I look forward to those little projects about what's going on over there. So.
Going to be the, I won't say it. I was going to say something, but I won't.
The hat's going to look different.
Would it be one of those emojis?
Yep.
All right. Any other comments or questions? All right. Seeing none, I'll call for a resolution, please.
Resolution number 5713, a resolution of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting a proposal from Wilson and Company, Inc. to provide design planning services for the water reclamation facility Phase 4B upgrade project, authorizing the expenditure of public funds and authorizing execution of a contract with or purchase order to Wilson and Company, Inc.
Mayor McFarland, I move approval of resolution number 5713 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next is item I3. This is consider approval of resolution number 5714. Danny?
Yes, Mayor McFarland, members of the council, this is to consider the contract for City Hall landscape project to install new irrigation systems, remove turf, and install desert landscaping. This is a water conservation project. Staff recommends that the mayor and council authorize the city manager to award a contract with Tri-Valley Landscaping LLC to complete the project. It is a local company that received the lowest bid. We had prepared and advertised a notice of bid, and it went out in August of 2000, just this year, and the bid met the requirements with the lowest bid to Tri-Valley Landscaping. As you recall, this project will assist in our a goal of reducing irrigation water consumption and our goal of the city of Casa Grande to 2030 general landscape plan as well to reduce water. And we do partner with Arizona Water as well, as we saw tonight. I actually work with their marketing person on us when we start this project to actually communicate with the community on how we're saving and what we're doing. We've met probably 3 times since we've received this award. So as you recall, the outside in the front area, if you notice, there's Bermuda grass out there right now that we didn't overseed because that's the area that's actually going to be replaced. We're going to have different DG paths coming to that center area and that indention in the front area. We had done a study session showing those plans, so we're going to continue with those. So, and the project is ready to go now after we get all the paperwork and contract signed if it's awarded by the council. This project is not to exceed $322,251. This includes the base bid and the alternative. So the alternative, we were able to come under budget for that. So that's that. If you walk outside through the front, it comes down a slope, so we'll be able to have some steps there, so it doesn't erode as much. So it should be a safer area. And it was approved through the regular budget process for $200,000 for the CIP. And we did receive the additional $150,000 grant from Arizona Water Infrastructure Authority as well that the council approved to add this project. And the available funds are $350,000, so it came in under that. So I'd like to entertain any questions if you have any.
Didn't we talk about this a couple years ago? All right. Well, good. Good to see that it's happening. I think it's a good project. I know I remember seeing some of the drawings, and I think it'll be a good addition to City Hall. It'll kind of break up some of all that grass we've got out there, so it'll be nice.
Well, not only that, Mayor, but, we try to encourage our,
Right, right,
residents to
reducing
conserve water. And
grass,
so,
yeah.
and I like when you did the analysis, you said we're the largest commercial user, so it's
We
good
are.
that we're doing it. So no, I'm
Yes.
happy to see that this is moving along.
Of course, we have more parks than anybody else, too.
Sure.
So.
We're almost
Is
there.
Reluca going to kind of take pictures as this thing goes along?
Oh, yeah,
Do
we'll
a-
make sure we do pictures, and we have an idea
do a
to
time lapse, kind of a time
put some
lapse thing.
pictures of different things, and that's one of the reasons that I'm talking with Arizona Water as well, their marketing person, talk about that. And I'm connecting our marketing people as well to make sure that we spread the word as this project proceeds.
Cool. Anybody else? Any other comments? Okay, thank you, Danny. I'll entertain a resolution number, please.
Resolution number 5714, a resolution of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting a bid from Tri-Valley Landscaping LLC to provide landscaping services for the City Hall landscape project, authorizing expenditure of public funds, authorizing execution of a contract with Tri-Valley Landscaping LLC, and authorizing the transfer of budget authority.
Mayor McFarland, I move that we approve resolution number 5714 as presented.
Second?
Motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next, we have a couple of appointments on our boards and commissions that we are proposing for the council to approve tonight. Item J1 is consider approval of the reappointment of Mindy Dawkins and Robert White to the Board of Adjustments with terms to extend through November 17. First of all, I want to publicly thank them for their service. Thank them. This is their second term for both of them that they are asking to be reappointed. 2. So if there are no objections, I would entertain a motion to approve these 2 candidates.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Well, congratulations to Mindy and to Robert, and thank you both again for serving. The next is item J2. This is consider the approval and reappointment of Chris Hubbard to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and also the new appointment of Mr. Cortez Smith, who's here tonight. Mr. Smith? Oh, Chris is here too. Thank you, Chris. I didn't see a hiding back there.
It's here.
Just too little.
So thank you to both of you. We appreciate your service and willingness to volunteer. I hope you know what you're getting into in the planning and zoning, but that's just between you and me. No, seriously, it's a big job, and we do appreciate your volunteering, so thank you. Chris, for your past service, and Mr. Smith for stepping up for the new position. These commission's terms extend through November 7th of 2027, and I would, if there's no discussion on it, I would entertain a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, well, congratulations to you both. Paul will be calling you, because I think you have a board meeting this week. Oh, he's already been through, he's already pre-approved. All right, good. Good one. Then you're ready to go, right? Okay. I know Chris has already got this down, so. All right, next is item K1. This is consider approval of ordinance number 1037.2. This is amending,
It's in the back.
well, I'll let you explain it.
Mayor McFarland, members of the council, this item is being brought for your consideration this evening as a result of discussions at your study session last month in relationship to elected official compensation. You might recall that it was noted the last formal action taken by council on adjusting compensation for mayor pro tem, and council members actually took place in 24 years ago, in 2000. And so a discussion was held in relationship to data that was extracted from the annual League of Cities and Towns salary survey, using the comparator cities and towns that we use for our employee compensation plan update annually, looking at the salaries paid to mayor and council member positions, averaging those, and we extracted that number and are using that in our recommendation this evening. Traditionally, the mayor pro tem compensation has been placed at a midpoint between council and mayor, and so that is noted as well. If you approve the ordinance this evening, 3 new council members coming in will be paid at the higher compensation amount. The new mayor would be paid at the higher compensation amount. The council members who are in their current terms would continue to be paid at the current rate, presuming that one of the sitting council members would be elected mayor pro tem. That individual would be paid at the current compensation for mayor pro tem. So that is the information that's brought for your consideration this evening. The ordinance from 2000 has been amended, it's included, and our city attorney's office has included the original ordinance for your information as well. And the data that was used was projected last time from our comparator cities and towns has also been included in your packet. And with that, if you have any questions that I can answer, I'll be glad to do that.
And these are from 2023, correct?
This is the data that, it's called the 2024 League of Cities and Towns Salary Survey, but the information is actually, in theory, effective on October 1st, 2023.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any comments or questions? All right. Well, then, and in my 8 years, I've not made a motion to accept one of our ordinances or, yeah. So I'm going to make a motion to approve. Pardon me? Oh, can you give me an ordinance number, please? See, I didn't even know how to do it. How bad is that?
And then we'll point at you when it's.
Wow.
You're just so excited.
I was so excited to do this. Thanks,
Ordinance-
Gloria, you just ruined it for me.
Ordinance number 1037.2, an ordinance of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending ordinance number 1037.1, setting new salaries for the mayor and council.
All right. Well, I would like to move for approval of ordinance number 1037.2 as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. Whew, made it through.
That was hard, huh?
It was hard, yeah. All right. Well, that is it for tonight's business. We do have reports, so I'm going to start with you, Mr. Lavender.
No report, sir.
Just a couple of things. Congratulations to the police department and the K-9 group for their first place win in the
Absolutely, yes.
competition. That's just awesome, so congratulations on that.
Good job. Thank you, Chief.
Community services, a Halloween competition was just a great idea. A lot of people got into that. Now we're on to the Christmas competition. Also want to just say thank you to the city attorney's office for the children's garden last week. And I also would be remiss, we approved the grant from Gila River. Saturday, Alberto Gutierrez, after serving 50 years in public service for the state of Arizona, he was a longtime director for the governor's office of highway safety, passed away. And he supported our police department for years with grants and making sure that Casa Grande was taken care of, and Pinal County. So I just wanted to mention him and ask people to have his family in their thoughts. That's it.
Thank you, Donna. Matt?
Thanks. Last Tuesday, we had the Chamber of Commerce Bowl for the women's flag football team, Union versus Vista. It was a great game. Had a little injury at the end. Luckily, we've heard that everything was okay. So we're going to present the trophy when the teams get together in the next couple weeks or so. So I want to thank your school, Jeff, for putting all that together, and the Chamber of Commerce, so we can present that trophy. So that was a lot of fun, and it was a nice, cool night. So that was even better. We got the Youth Commission had their shredding day last week. Went really well. The mayor cleaned out his office as he's getting ready to move on, so he brought
several boxes.
quite a load of stuff. And I did want to say, concerning, because there has been concerns about the odor from the sewer system, and they did reply to me too, that they take every odor complaint very seriously because it could be a sign of a problem. So they check it out, the complaint they receive, and investigate. Some they can take care of, and some it's just like that. Yep. So they did see one on CG Chat, and they went and checked it out, and everything seemed to be working. So I do want to say that they did say that, so I appreciate that, Kevin, for you and Kim and your team over there. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Matt.
So report it.
And
if
no
you have a
reports.
problem.
Lisa?
Just, this is the time of activities. I mean, it seems like every day, the last couple of weekends have been so crazy, but I did want to thank the community services for the Harvest event, for Halloween. It was great. It was so nice to see so many families participating in all the costumes and competitions and everything. So thank you for a job well done from your department, as well as all the police and fire that are there for the safety. Then the Halloween stroll downtown with Casa Grande Main Street, another great event. The parade, we weren't in it this year, but I do thank the veterans organizations for continuing that parade and honoring our veterans throughout the community. It was so nice being there. As a matter of fact, Jody was my partner in the parade, and we were sitting next to a young family, a woman whose husband was just deployed that day to Germany. And so it was just so timely that we were actually sitting there, and she brought her 2 young children. And it's just, we have to remember the sacrifices that so many families are making for our freedom. So, it just makes you proud to be an American. And it was so nice to see all the veterans out there. So great event. And then the car show at the Crossroads. Mayor picked a fancy red car, so that's nice. I had my favorites, but That was great. And we talked about the boards and commissions and everything that they do for us in our community. Tomorrow, Wednesday night, we are going to have a dinner for the boards and commission members. So hopefully those people that are here today and those that are watching that are on a board, I hope you come. We appreciate everything that you do. So that's it. Tomorrow's election day. Please make sure you vote. For those of you that haven't, please get in and vote or turn in your ballots.
Bob?
No report, Mayor.
All right. Well, I'm here to report that I voted already, so.
Good.
I want to give a shout out to, really, to Deb Bruner and to Rebecca Stanley. And so, Mindy, please make sure you tell Rebecca that I called her out in a meeting. They were actually part of the CG Link service showcased in the Tech Meets Transit. So big shout out. Very proud of them for representing the city of Casa Grande, and that kind of an honor that they were picked to represent. So that was very good. Again, shout out to the police department and your canine unit. They're awesome, and taking best of show there. So that was great. Remember that Puritan Courtson and Treckle intersections will be under construction because of the new sewer line. So I just want to remind everybody, don't get upset when you go through those interchanges. Try and avoid them if you can. Because we are going to be burrowing underneath those interchanges, so there'll be some lane restrictions and some other stuff. And get CG alerts if you don't have it, because it will remind you all the time. In fact, today, reminders went out on the Gila River Bridge. There was also some closures or some signal issues down at Pinal and Florence. So all those alerts went out on CG Alert, and so it's a great system. Again, if you're not on it, please go to the city's website and sign up. It's a great service. It really is, and it's free. It's free. Okay, that's enough. I did attend an Inspire Ed program last week. It was for education, and they were honoring the president of APS. It was a great program. It was up in Phoenix at the Camelback Inn, and so they honored him for all of his work in education. And so we were represented there. Busy weekend, as Lisa's already outlined. The Casa Grande Chamber of Commerce had a great golf tournament on Friday that we were participating in. And then one last thing, please mark your calendar for February 13th at Central Arizona College. So you have plenty of time to plan for this. February 13th from 9 to 1, Central Arizona College. It's for the Career Expo. So if you have any kiddos, or if you want to know what's going on in the job area, or you're just looking for a job, there's lots of opportunities. I know that Richard's involved in it. You're not involved in it? Oh. I guess it is out in February. So. Anyway, it's called Worlds of Work, Pinal County. So please mark your calendar and plan to attend. And then lastly, I said it was lastly already, but I have one more. The Gila River Indian community this year was super gracious to the city of Casa Grande. And as a total, we received 10 grant approvals this year from the Gila, amounting to $2.8 million in grant money that we received. The city was fortunate enough in our city projects to receive $2 million of that. The other 800 or 750,000 actually went to various nonprofits here in town. So a big shout out to the Gila River Indian community, a big thank you, and that's all I have. So thank you, everybody.